Most guys think that fixing corn induced ED is all about willpower, long streaks, waiting months for results. But the biggest thing holding you back is your mindset. If you believe you're stuck, you will be until you break free from those limiting beliefs. Here's exactly how those beliefs keep you trapped in this PIED cycle and what you can do to finally move forward. Number one, believing recovery takes forever. Now, again, this is another hot take for sure. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree, but hearing about 90-day or 120 timeline sometimes makes you assume that it'll just be as hard for you as it was them, right? And we read these things online, right? And they sound good, right? They sound good that, okay, yes, it takes this long for you to reboot your brain, and yes, there's science behind some of these things, but we almost take these things as law that I can't fix this problem and I only can do it in the period of time that they told me. And the thing is, that's just not correct at all, right? And each person is different, right? So in general, they say the earlier someone started these habits, right, the longer it's going to take for them to recover, right? In general, right? But this is a belief that the fact that it's going to take you 90 or 120 days or even longer, to me, is just overlooking and simplifying the problem a little bit too much, right? Because again, I always say people tend to focus only on the days that they're quitting instead of anything else, right? They don't focus on their diet, they don't focus on their lifestyle, they don't focus on socializing, don't focus on, anything with pelvic floor stuff. All they focus on is going this time. And then for me, when I realized that these numbers, yes, they sound good, and I'm not saying that there's no science in this at all, but specifically for someone who's dealing with PIED, these numbers may sound good, but there are better alternatives than just waiting 120 days. And the truth is, what's interesting is a lot of times, even in my personal experience, doing the 115, 120, I still didn't see the type of results that I wanted to see. And it left me wondering, man, can I even trust what these people are saying? Right? So a lot of times you have to take things that you see online with a grain of salt. 90 or 120, maybe, let's say for your entire brain to reboot, sure, someone could argue that. But does that mean that you have to still have PID until 100 day 20 and then it's just magically going to disappear? No, no, right? So start questioning some of these things that they're telling you, right? Because these are almost beliefs that, right? Think of this, for example, right? You have someone who ran a mile, right? And if you guys remember, the mile time was always, I believe it was above 4 minutes or something like that. And everyone in the entire world thought that you couldn't reach a mile time that was under that 4 minute. And what happened, right? Someone ended up running the mile under 4 minutes. And that broke something in people's brains to where they said, okay, this is possible. Like, not everyone has to, it's possible to go even less time. And I want you to think about that for these beliefs that you have, right? Think about it in terms of it's possible for you to recover even quicker, but of course there are other things that you have to put in place, like the lifestyle, and you have to take inventory of a lot of these things. But don't think that just because someone took 120 days, 150, 200, that has to be you. It can be, and it might be, but it doesn't have to be you. Okay, so keep that in mind. And a lot of times what happens with that timeline too is it keeps you really hoping and awaiting for results instead of taking action right now. You almost attribute every piece of your success to this waiting and this arbitrary time frame when that's not how life really works, right? So keep it in mind, man. Number two, letting your past struggles define you. Now, if you think you'll always be stuck because you failed before, that becomes your reality. And what you start to realize is these beliefs that you hold about yourself, the belief that I'm never going to fix this problem, it's always been like this and always will be like this, you know, no one is even able to actually quit, right? All of these, it's this negative mindset that you have in the back of your brain that's keeping you stuck, right? It keeps telling you that, I'm never gonna fix this, man. Things have always been like this. It's so difficult, right? And you say these things that, right? You have to remember that your experience is specifically coming from what you've been through. But if someone told you and said to you, you know, quitting corn, curing PIED is not difficult, what would you think? You'd probably call them crazy, right? You'd be like, man, what is this guy talking about? He's crazy. He can't be saying that. This is the hardest thing in the world. Like, that's how you would look at it, right? And the thing is, right, you have to remember that a lot of these are just limiting beliefs that you have. Don't believe that just because it's hard for you, that means it's hard for everyone, right? Because there's plenty of people who probably are not on the corn, right? Think about it. There's plenty of people who probably aren't. Now, a lot of people are just because it's kind of been the norm in some conditioning. But don't think that just because your experience and these beliefs that you have is actual reality, right? Remember to always take a step back and, don't just focus on all these setbacks, all the negativity, right? Because a lot of times you probably do have some small wins, right? You have these maybe a day, 2 days that go by and you are on point. And what happens is a lot of times you just don't take inventory of how you got there, right? And you miss these patterns that got you, because all you really need to do is, if you have one successful day, 2 successful days, man, repeat your patterns, right? What got you to that point? What were you focused on during that day? What were you doing? What were you not doing? What were you consuming? What were you not consuming? What were you listening to? What were you watching? Man, you got to take inventory, right? Inventory and keeping, that momentum going definitely play a huge factor. So don't just focus on, the failures and the negativity, right? Focus on what's actually possible, right? Don't let other people's experience or your own experience really negatively impact what you think is capable for yourself, because you're probably capable of a lot more, and you know that. You've seen glimpses here and there where you're consistent, you're able to stay on point, you're putting in the work, you're on, but then you let things distract you, right? You let the dopamine go crazy, and then you're struggling to focus. You can't just sit down and work. Anytime a struggle or something difficult comes by you, what do you want to do? Man, you want to go back PMO, relapse, and you're back to square one all over again, right? So positivity, focus on it. Letting comparison limit your beliefs. Number 3. Seeing others succeed can inspire you, but don't let their timeline become your limit. And this is the thing, right? So you have people, and I think it's fine that people look at these success stories, and they see how someone was able to overcome their issues in a certain timeline. Man, use it as a success, right? Use it as inspiration. Let it be something that tells you that it's possible to get to that point, right? But don't necessarily limit yourself, that just because they had those results means it's going to take me that long. No, what you should think is, you should think that it's possible. But really what you should be thinking is, man, how could I do it even quicker? Now, number one, I know it's possible because someone else did it. So number 2, what do we have? We have the fuel that's going to get you there, right? Because all there is you have a vehicle to get you there and a destination, right? And then the vehicle and destination equals the outcome, right? So the vehicle is you. And you've seen someone else in their vehicle reach the destination that you want to reach, right? So if you know it's possible to get to the destination, what you need to ask yourself is, what vehicle am I driving? What beliefs, what type of fuel do I have? The time, energy, and attention do I have? What do I believe is possible? And what direction am I going in? How fast am I going in that direction? And how can I go even faster, right? Because you can go faster. This idea that it's got to take that long is it's a limiting belief, right? And I'm not here to blame anyone or say that, other people saying this timeline is a negative thing, because people are trying to help at the end of the day. But you got to realize that their experience doesn't necessarily have to be yours, right? So don't limit yourself to take it that long. Think about, how can I actually be the exception to the rule? Because to tell you the truth, although it took me a very long time to get to that point, I was one of those exceptions. And I think especially with something like PIED, you can probably be the exception too. All right, number 4. Now we talk about how to break free from limiting beliefs. Question your beliefs about recovery, where they came from, and if they're actually true for you. And that's what I really want you guys to take away from this, right? Question what you believe, right? Go through it and start internalizing some of those things. I was walking you through some of those thoughts that I remember having, right? That, man, I have to go 120, 100 plus days, 90 plus days, and then I'm recovered. Like it sounds good, right? But where does that come from, right? Why does it have to take that long? How can I finesse this so that things take even shorter period of time? Because to have to wait, and here's the biggest problem with this, right? To have to wait 100, 120 plus days to even take action in terms of relationships, right? Maybe attempt something to see if you're cured of PIED. If you have to wait 120 days every single time, that is terrible. That is terrible. Like, man, you got to realize you only have 365, right? So that means you can only pretty much make attempts 3 times a year. If you're going 120, I mean, you're at 360 if you do times 3. What type of timeline is that, right? And that's exactly the type of thing I went through, because I'm like, man, I got to get to this point. But what happens if you say someone is going to go that many times per year, right? And you account for a couple relapses. I mean, how many attempts are you really going to have in 1 year? You're not going to have many, because you probably can't even get to those type of numbers, and you think that these numbers are just going to magically solve your problems, right? When the problem is bigger than just that, right? So you got to look at your entire lifestyle and question these type of statements that people say online, and is it actually true for you, right? And some of you, maybe it is, maybe you have some underlying other problems that are going on, but if you don't, you know you're a guy that's in shape and you're still dealing with something like this, man, it's possible. It's possible for sure, right? And recognizing things like patterns is another one, right? Recognizing the triggers, the patterns. I keep telling you guys to take inventory, right? So you can build something that actually is going to work for you, right? And then focusing on that progress as well. So instead of meditating on the negative, you start focusing on the positive and what's actually possible, right? Because a lot of these things are possible if you've seen someone else do it, right? And you guys can take inspiration from me, because I've done a lot of these things, right? I've done these things that at one point I didn't even think was possible. And the idea is not to be perfect, right? It's not that, oh, I just need to be perfect with everything, but it's to live a life and have a lifestyle that is so fulfilling that there's no need to even go to that, right? To even, bring yourself down to that level, to run back to the vices, right? There's no need. There's no need, because I get so much fulfillment from life and the life setup, and I've set an environment to where it's conducive to my success, right? That's it. So make sure and remember that. Upgrade your lifestyle and not just your habits, right? Old routines with new goals, experiences, and real world connection, right? Man, so you got to upgrade, man. Change the lifestyle, change your life. That's the simplest way you could put it, man. But if you're tired of being stuck with PIED, you're ready to break out of your own limiting beliefs, man, click the link below, book a free call. Let's see and figure out exactly how I can help you, see what's holding you back, and build something that actually works for you. Peace.